young people, like, their voice does count. And if we know that our voice counts, then our voice will get amplified and become something bigger that we can achieve and that we want for the future.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you guys.
The Ute vote.
Did you say Utes?
Yeah, 2 Utes.
What is a Ute?
Excuse me. The youth vote in Texas is poised to play a big role in the upcoming 2020 election. Austin rock trio the Tiara Girls have placed civic engagement center stage in their performances. Tori Valtierra, the youngest of the three, recently became eligible to vote. She registered on stage during a gig.
So yeah, I will be signing my registration form right here, right now.
And voted for the first time.
You registered to vote?
Civic engagement with these musicians is a family affair, and they often hold council together to discuss politics.
My voter registration card came in the mail, and I came home from school, and my dad put it on my bed so I could see, and it felt like a little present, like oh, I get to vote now.
And a great deal of their interest goes back to their education. The three attended and graduated from the Ann Richards School for Young Women
Green Party
Leaders.
on this particular issue pretty closely aligns with the Democratic Party platform. The AP program for government in particular are pretty straightforward about civic action and civic engagement being an important component of the class. But it's also not just one of the sort of foundational parts of the course at the College Board level, it's an important part of our culture.
Michael Hatch is a 12th grade government teacher.
For youth to try to get engaged, they kind of need to know what are ways in which they can become civically engaged or politically active or civically active. And it's, I think, incumbent upon teachers between 6th grade to 12th grade, kindergarten to 8th grade, regardless of the time period, to encourage students to start thinking about how the things that they're learning in school impact the people around them.
We were looking at the incredible growth in the youth vote from 2014 to 2018. It tripled, but it's still only at about 24%. So we were really looking into what barriers are still in the way for young people being able to turn out to vote.
Maggie Stern with Children's Defense Fund of Texas authored a report that outlines what they say is state voter suppression of youth.
So we looked at 2 kinds of barriers. The first are more passive, so it's things like voter ID requirements and an outdated voter registration system that affect everybody, but are a real big problem for young voters and first-time voters in particular, who might not know all the ins and outs of how to register and what ID they need to show up at the polls. And then more active barriers like polling place closures or shortened early voting periods that tend to happen in communities where there's a lot of young people, like on college campuses, and particularly where there's a lot of young people of color.
Because in Texas, people under 40 are overwhelmingly people of color. So those things are linked together, and they actually can't be separated.
The Texas Civil Rights Project has been in the thick of a push for increased youth voter registration.
So we've also been looking at a little-known law from the 80s that requires Texas high schools to offer voter registration twice a year. And this has been ignored, sadly, for decades. We have done a variety of steps, including pushing the Secretary of State's office to make steps about how you comply with the law clear and sending out notices to principals. We've also created a toolkit, both for educators and for community groups, also to make it as easy as possible.
Charlie Bonner is with Move Texas. They, along with coalition partners like Texas Rising, have been part of a big push to get young people out to the polls.
We also know that voting is a habit. You do it once, you do it twice, then you've created that habit within yourself and you're turning into a lifelong voter. It's why we don't necessarily focus on presidential elections. We're focusing on local elections and primaries and runoffs so we can get those few touches in the first few elections of a young voter's life to create that habit for them.
So the increase that we've seen in the youth electorate is really a game changer in terms of how campaigns look at us. For the longest time, Texas was seen as not a competitive state. That is changing because as we've seen more youth come into the fray, especially in the 2018 election, we're seeing more competitive areas in Texas and more investment there.
And when we start having candidates talking about the issues that matter to young people, we can turn out even more young people because they're seeing the difference that they can make.
Are you registered to vote? You want to get registered? It takes 1 minute.
It's a third of the electorate is under 30 in Texas. You're just gonna not turn out those folks, it's no longer a good investment for those campaigns to not make. And so we're hoping to change that conversation and see campaigns put their money behind young people.
And as for youths, excuse me, youths like Tori Valtierra,
I'm really excited to vote in not only the general election, but the primaries. For a very long time, I've been sitting on the sidelines and just seeing things happen to my community, and like I feel very, very prideful in the fact that now I'm eligible and I can go and I can vote, use my voice within the privilege that I hold, which is the democracy I live in.